Alright guys, welcome back to Urge. Jameson, Alex here. Today we're just going to be taking a quick look at all of the minis from the Wildemount set that came out. There are 3 different NPC sets. One is from the Krynn Dynasty in Xhorhas, the other one is from the Dwendalian Empire, and the other one is the Clovis, Concord, and the Menagerie Coast. And then there are 3 monsters. There's Monster Set 1, which has a bunch of monsters, Monster Set 2, which has a bunch of monsters, and then there's the premium Udaak, which is just a massive miniature.
Big bull.
So we're just going to kind of show some close-ups, maybe talk a little bit about it, our thoughts on it and everything. We were going to do it as an unboxing. We bought these a long time ago, and we just have been so busy that we've not had a chance to do them. So they've been out for a little while, but they are really cool, so definitely check them out. We'll show some close-ups and everything here in a minute. But quick suggestion, we were going to take them out while doing the video, but
then I open the first box and
they're so securely fastened. Our suggestion is to take the entire platform out and push them from the bottom, because trying to pull them out, not the easiest thing in the world. So, anyways, all that said, we'll just go straight into it.
Yes. So, starting off with the Dwendalian Empire set, and I think it's only logical to start with everyone's favorite, or maybe one of the top, that S tier shop owner list is Pumat Soul. And his little furball self, he's holding a nice little book.
Got the old Pumat Soul here.
He's very like a Canadian. That's always what he sounds like.
What going on?
I think of the moose from Brother Bear. That's what that's what I think of when I hear that voice. Super, very specific rut and toot. Yeah, I still know that off the top of my head. Anyway.
Yes. So that's a cool mini right there, just to have like some of the main characters from Campaign 2.
Yep. We have the Hills of Pride's Call Farmer.
So yes. So just a usual, like a townsperson basically.
Yep.
That's what it looks like.
Looks like a dwarf with like a red, like a ginger beard essentially, ginger haircut.
Yes.
We have another Dwendalian farmer, another dwarf lady, but she's got a big old farming utensil. Looks like some version of a hoe or maybe a reaping scythe for some wheat in there. We've got a Dwendalian Crown's Guard. She's got a sword ready to pull on somebody for doing something stupid they shouldn't be doing inside the city.
And that's the thing, with a lot of these NPC, or these humanoid minis at least, there's a good mixture of them, so you get like different races, and they're just generally good townsfolk kind of NPCs. Basically.
We have the Volstrucker Agent.
Yes, so that's part of the Cerberus Assembly, of course, with Caleb Woodacast. Comes from, it's one of the backgrounds in the Wildemount book, and some arcane assassins. Yep. Definitely interesting.
A Dwendalian aristocrat with his fancy fur-coated jacket over his, you can tell, very fancy garb compared to some of the other like regular Crown's Guard and farmers. He's definitely dressed up quite a bit.
Yes, going to get some nobles in there as well. Like I said, a good mix of different kinds of NPCs on here, for sure.
A Righteous Brand Soldier, which looks like, again, kind of similar to the Crown's Guard, but it looks like it's got a nicer set of armor on it, like it's an upgraded elite version.
Yes.
Almost in type of gear we have there. Then we have the Drakenblood Dragonborn.
Yes, those are the, in the world of Tal'Dorei / Wildemount, there are the Drakenblood and the Ravenites. Drakenblood are the scholarly versions of the Dragonborn.
Right.
They actually were the colonizers of Draconia. So, yes, there's that.
Then speaking of, we have the other one. We have the Ravenite Dragonborn. And also, and you can correct me if I'm drawing blanks here, one of them is tailed and one of them is not. And
Correct.
the Ravenites are not tailed.
Correct. They're the more hardy, physically strong, whereas the Drakenblood are the more scholarly, like lizardly, slender type of Dragonborn.
Yes. And
the Ravenites were the ones that were basically enslaved by the Drakenbloods. And it was like 20 years ago, in the lore of Campaign 2, Draconia was destroyed by the Chroma Conclave, and the Ravenites have since rebuilt their home and recaptured their freedom. So after Tal'Dorei, the Campaign 1 kind of concluded, they've, over the last 20 years, between then and Campaign 2, they've kind of regained their freedom. So, a fun fact on there.
Onto the Clovis, Concord, and Menagerie Coast box. We have a Clovis Noble. Looks like a halfling, maybe a gnome. Almost like he's got a merchant outfit, almost kind of like a pirate hat that he's got on.
Yeah, so you're
going to
get some more like seafaring type of people here on the Menagerie coast, for sure.
We have a fisherman of Clovis, as we said with seafarers. Like he's got some kind of cluster of fish he's holding on to, fresh off a day's work.
Yeah, and I think too with those, it's a good mix of getting some of these coastal NPCs as well, because you don't get too many of those very easily.
We have a Clovis Concord Zalizo. He's got a big old dwarven warhammer in hand.
Yes.
He's got very much like an Arabian style garb with like a turban and like a chest plate with exposed shoulders. Makes you think of like you'd see in an Arabian setting almost.
He's one of the returning NPCs in Campaign 2, yes.
We have a pallid elf. He's got looks like a pair of daggers ready to go, but definitely looks like a not normal elf.
Right. In the World of Wildemount, the pallid elf is a sub-race in the book from Wildemount, and they're a pale elf. They describe it as pale as the moon, and they only emerged from the Pallid Grove in the last century and are an extremely curious race. So they're kind of new to the surface kind of thing going on there. So it's
hence the pale skin and the whatnot.
Exactly.
We have a shore warden soldier. So again, very much like this, like Arabian, maybe Persian or Mongolian kind of armor with the shield style and the tufted hat and the long spear. Gosh, there. We have the Grinner, which is with his fancy hat and bard-like setup with his violin and bow in tow.
Yes. The Grinner, I believe, is a background in the Wildemount book, and they're a group of bards from the Golden Grin, which is the continent of Teldore, which they kind of specialize in forming a network of secret bases to relay messages. They're kind of like a secret networking organization.
Almost like a thieves' cant kind of thing,
yeah,
but for bards.
Similar, yeah.
Next up, we have the Hollow One, which is, he's incurred some pain. He has a sword sticking through his chest, but he's still kicking because he's got an axe in his other hand. He wants to come get whoever stuck him.
Yes, and the Hollow One is a supernatural gift in the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount book, and with that, they are filled with the strange magic of the Blade Shore, which is an unexplored area in Campaign 2 that was mentioned several times.
And then finally out of this, we have the actual Blood Hunter mini that is the first like critical role whole base class they made, not just a subclass like you would have with the Gunslinger or later on from Campaign 2, a couple other options that came in there. But it's the exact same art you see in the on the class build. And everything.
And a lot of these minis, I think they actually use art from the book to base the minis on. So it is kind of cool to see them actually rendered in 3D. So that is the first two NPC sets, and then the third NPC set, we get the Krynn Dynasty in Xhorhas. So with that, of course, being a major part, we have the Echo Knight, and of course the Echo of the Echo Knight. Which is a nice little set on here, which if you're playing an Echo Knight fighter, can be cool, though the specific NPC on here is a very particular type of character, so if you're not playing this type of race or whatever, then not going to necessarily matter for you. It's an interesting mini on here. The only complaint I think I have is the nose. Looks more like a clown nose than it's supposed to be. I think like a blushing nose. But it looks more like a little clown nose on there, like a red nose. So it's the only complaint on there. But that it is pretty cool to have the set there that goes together. Then we also have a trader of the Krynn, which looks like a half orc or possibly an orc. On here, just a little trader, one of those monstrous races of Xhorhas. Then we also have a Krynn noble. Like I said, you have a good mixture of nobles, merchants, different fighters, things like that in all these whole sets. We also have, from the art of the book, the Graviturgy Wizard, which is one of the new subclasses in Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. Pretty cool one on there. Then we also have on here a Dunamancy Wizard, another one of the subclasses from the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. The cool little, looks like we're making a magic spell here, casting in the center. So, most of these being drow, appears to be the case as well. Then we have a Dark Elf Rogue, another one on here, which is a nice little mixture. I like the cloak on this one, the dagger's pretty cool. And just two more left on here. We got some smaller humanoids. One is the Lotus Den Halfling, So there is that. Looks like a little shepherd kind of thing going on there. And then lastly, we have the Chronergy Wizard. So there is that as well. Another subclass from Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. And I said before, the Dunamancy Wizard is a subclass. Technically, it's not. Dunamancy is the school of magic, so let me clarify that.
Yeah.
So it's more a general wizard that practices Dunamancy than it is a particular subclass. So just correcting that before I get annihilated in the comments below. So all that being said, that is the third and final of the humanoid NPCs. Like I said before, a good mixture. You got lots of different races. And if you're looking for a particular region, Xhorhas is going to be more monstrous, dark elfy, drow kind of thing. And then the other ones are a little bit more spread out on the human dwarf kind of feel as well.
With Puma bringing in the furball representation.
Yes, there's a good mix.
Yeah, absolutely. Onto the monster sets, of which there are 2, and I believe you actually have monster set 1.
I do, so I'll go ahead and go first. We have on here the Husk Zombie, which with the Husk Zombie, interesting thing on here, it appeared a couple times in the campaign 2. One, I believe, was in the beginning of the entire series, I believe episode 1. And then they faced a variant of the Husk Zombie, which is also in the book as well, which were the Burster variant, which they explode when they die. So
always
they faced those a couple different times throughout campaign 2. We also had on here, I'll do those together because those are kind of from the same area. The Nurglid, which is also what they call the Demon Frog. Early on in the campaign, I believe it's in the first couple episodes on here, they fought against one of those in the campaign. And then we also have a Shadowghast on here, which did not appear in campaign 2 from what I can recall, which is it's almost like a ghoul and a ghast together kind of thing going on there. The tongue really makes me think of that. So cool little variations on monsters here. And then we have 2 different sets on here that are of the same family. So the first one is the Core Spawn. There's 3 different Core Spawns. The first one being the Core Spawn Emissary, which is a little a freaky moth-looking bee praying mantis scythe creature. Yes. So there's that. And then there is a Core Spawn Crawler, which is a freaky little bug. Yeah. It's got some creepy claws.
Big giant spider scorpion thing.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And then we have the Core Spawn Seer, which is like a more caster-based thing with, again, with kind of going along with the bug-like features. You got a bunch of different legs on here, and it looks like a caster staff and a cloak. And the Core Spawn creatures on here, I believe those were part of the Blight Shore, if I remember correctly, which the campaign did not go to in the second one, but definitely interesting area that is laid out in the book. And then the second group on here is the Aeorian monsters, which kind of brought up the tail end of the campaign. There's a variety of these different monsters toward the end of the campaign. No spoiler, I'm trying to avoid spoilers as much as possible, but they did fight all 3 of these next monsters at different points in time. The first is the Aeorian Reverser. It's kind of a dog, gorilla-looking creature with green skin and a pink underbelly, which all of these are very interesting. Probably some of my favorite monsters in the book. They kind of deal with countering magic and spells and things like that, which can make them very scary. Another one is the Aeorian Nullifier, which, it's got a bunch of mouths and it's like a snake-like creature with big old scary honking claws on there.
Yeah, he got some reach on them arms too.
Yeah, so these are some scary dudes to deal with, especially for magic users. And then lastly, the Aeorian Absorber, which it's kind of like a Displacer Beast, but it's very brightly colored and has like a beholder eye stalk, basically as a tail. So another creepy little creature on there. So fun stuff there from the first set. Again, another good mix of monsters, I think. A variety of cool ones here that you can use in all kinds of different settings, for sure.
On to monster set number 2. We will start off with the Sea Fury. Almost like a little sea witch that's got, seaweed for hair kind of a setup.
Yes, and they did fight against Sea Fury and some of the other ones in their time venturing as pirates in one of the arcs of Campaign 2.
And this probably is the longest title of any individual monster here. It's the Shehaugen Warlock
Ukatoa.
Ukatoa, there we go.
Yes.
See, I was like, I'm going to mispronounce that. Yeah, it looks kind of like if a bug and a fish had a kid, almost kind of like a merfolky looking, guy with his tail, and he's got his club ready to smack somebody.
Yes, that kind of goes along in the same vein there as the Sea Fury.
Yep. On to some of the bigger guys. We have the Gear Keeper Construct. It's a big ball of death with, scimitars coming off of arms in all kinds of directions.
Yes, that was a very interesting encounter in Campaign 2 where they had to dispatch of one of these creatures that was constructed to protect an area but kind of went haywire. So that's a cool monster.
Makes sense. For sure. Then we have the Moorbounder, which looks like a panther and a woolly mammoth had a kid.
Yeah,
essentially. Because it's got this big bulk and tusk of a woolly mammoth. It's got more of a cat-like body build and head, but very angry, vicious-looking guy.
Yeah, they encountered those a few times in Xhorhas. I believe in Asarius, they were being sold as mounts. So, fun stuff with there.
We have the Marrow Shallow Priest,
Yes.
a well-designed caster with the harpoon attached with rope already so he can stick somebody or something.
That's probably one of my favorite minis. I really love the design of that one.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
You got the cat. It's casting a spell off of one hand while having this spear in the other hand. Very much like that guy.
Yeah, it's another one of the Pirate Saga kind of creatures.
And probably the biggest, scariest looking thing on here is the Swabian Basilisk coming up out of the water as part of the mini.
Yeah, it's cool that they had that little splash effect on there.
Very nice on there.
And that's one, they had a quest from Pumat Sol to acquire some basilisk oil, but they never actually completed it in the second campaign, so it's kind of funny.
And then the probably my favorite individual monster mini in here, I save for last because it's our show, do what we want, is the Gloomstalker. And they do a really good job with like giving off this really evil, dark, shadowy thing because it's got this translucent, almost like smoky flame coming out of his mouth as a breath along its back and along the tail of his wings. It's a very nice design choice that I very much approve of.
Yes, that's a really cool one,
in
too.
the Gloomstalker.
I like the transparent wings. It's cool.
Yep.
So that's all of the main sets, but then there is the premium mega mini, which goes along the lines of the adult dragons and
so they actually scale him up to be bigger than he is for the sake of premiums and details.
We have the Udaak, which is a monstrous creature that they didn't actually fight in Campaign 2, but they came across several corpses, I believe, of these creatures. And as you can see on the bottom of these bases, it has the ring of the actual creature size, and then the actual base is quite a bit bigger than the actual creature size.
So, just for a ring comparison, it's actually only one size bigger than what the Basilisk would be.
Yeah, but this mini is absolutely
But the mini is
monstrous.
absolutely gargantuan.
Especially when you put up next to some of these regular humanoids, how much bigger it is. It's pretty ridiculous. It's basically just a four-armed gorilla with a bunch of eyes and a big old terrifying jaw.
Yeah, big old mouthful of teeth. I mean, it's a CR16 monster with. Granted, it is just a big sucker, but it does have a lot of interesting physical abilities, along with just a lot of health and a lot of armor class, along with some damage immunities and some condition immunities. It's a big old angry bruiser of a beast.
Yeah, definitely a really cool big monster there. Another thing too is even if you don't necessarily play with minis in your games, these are more premium figures that are good for putting on display, either as a collector or just something to have on your desk that kind of looks cool.
Yeah, especially
the bigger ones.
Especially you get into the monster size, like the large and on up size monsters. Yeah. I mean, even if without having to go all the way to the premium size, like I said, the Gloomstalker, the Urgolid, stuff like that of that size still looks really, really well done.
Yeah, and they do a good job with the painting on here as well. For most of them, they're pretty solid. But yeah, definitely really cool set of different minis. We have a huge variety of stuff, which I really like.
Yeah, it's not just this or not just this. There's a huge mix of stuff in here.
Yeah, you'll be able to use these in different campaigns for sure. And of course, having NPCs is always super helpful because you never know what kind of stuff you're running into. Mm-hmm. So, really enjoy this set, guys. If you want to buy some of these, I'll put links down below for our Amazon store, so you can go check those out. We'll get credit for any of those things that you buy. So, Make sure you check that out. Some really cool stuff on here, guys. But that's going to wrap it up for today. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications so whenever new videos are coming out. Don't forget about that D&D Beyond Players Bundle as well. So coming up soon for the 10K subscribers. So make sure you're entered in that. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.